For years, we carry our pain like armor until one day we realize we're no longer at war. This video is for that moment. A quiet shift that tells you something deeper is changing. It begins without drama, without fanfare. Just a sense of stillness where chaos used to live. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. The silence, once feared, now feels like home. You stop rehearsing old arguments in your mind. The need to be right dissolves. And with it, the grip of your past stories begins to fade. Your reactions change. Not because you're forcing yourself to be calm, but because there's nothing left inside that needs defending. You start choosing peace over proving a point. Stillness over noise. Distance over drama. And it feels right. You meet people where they are without trying to change them. You love without clinging. You care without controlling. That's how you know you're healing. You no longer need every emotion to be explained. You sit with discomfort like an old friend who no longer scares you. There's a feeling of coming home. Not to a place, but to your own energy. You feel aligned. Not perfect. Not always happy. But whole. You begin to see your shadow not as an enemy, but as a teacher. You stop running from the dark and instead walk with it. And in that moment, something sacred happens. You realize this was never just about you. The healing, the awakening. It's part of something larger. We're waking up together. Peace isn't a destination. It's the quiet knowing that you're no longer ruled by fear. You are free. You are home. If you felt any of this lately, it's not random. It's not a coincidence. It's your soul remembering the way back. You're not broken. You're awakening. And you're not alone. 1. The quiet shift. It doesn't start with fireworks. It starts with silence. A silence so subtle you might miss it. Unless you're really listening. You don't announce it to the world. There's no celebration. No victory dance. Just a soft, nearly invisible shift deep within. You begin noticing you're not reacting the same way. The same words, the same people, the same patterns. But your heart doesn't flare up like it used to. The triggers are still there. The sharp words, the dismissive looks, the old wounds people poke without realizing. But something inside you no longer rushes to defend. There's space now, not physical space, but a breath, a pause, a quiet stretch of awareness between what happens and what you choose to do with it. You don't collapse into your old stories. You don't let your past pick the words that come out of your mouth. You just breathe and respond instead of react. It's like winter turning to spring. Not loud, not sudden, but unmistakable. Quiet thaw, a softening, a remembering of who you really are. One morning you wake up and realize you're not carrying as much weight as before. And the silence inside you isn't empty. It's full. Full of presence. Full of something ancient. Something true. You don't need a reason to feel calm anymore. You don't chase it. You simply find it, sitting quietly in the space you made by letting go. Have you ever felt peace for no reason? That soft, sacred kind of peace that doesn't depend on anything being fixed. It just is. 2. Freedom from the past. You stop dragging your history into the present. Not because you've forgotten it, but because it no longer feels like it defines who you are becoming. The stories that used to cling to your skin like damp clothing, they begin to loosen. They fall away. Not because you push them off, but because they no longer fit. You stop needing the world to understand what happened to you. You stop replaying scenes in your head hoping they'll end differently. The past doesn't vanish. It just loses its power to script your future. You're not trying to rewrite your past anymore. You simply stop living from it. The energy that used to go into rewriting your story, you reclaim it. You use it to write this chapter with clarity, with intention. There is such relief in realizing you don't need to fix what already happened. You only need to stop bleeding into it. That wound you carried, it doesn't need to vanish for you to be free. You no longer need others to validate your healing. You don't wait for their apology to feel whole. You don't require their understanding to move forward, because wholeness is no longer a negotiation. It's like a snake shedding its skin. There is no hatred for the old skin, no shame, just the quiet instinct to grow out of what no longer serves. And you realize freedom doesn't come from forgetting. It doesn't come from pretending it never happened. True freedom is when you no longer need to remember in order to prove you've healed. It's a sacred turning point. The day your scars become stories, not cages. The day your past becomes a teacher, not a jailer. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And perhaps this is the beginning of true consciousness. Not in erasing the past, but in waking up to the power it no longer has over you. 3. Emotional maturity. You don't drown in your feelings anymore. You learn to float. The waves still come, but they no longer pull you under. You're no longer gasping for air in the storm of your emotions. You're learning to breathe with them, not against them. You begin to witness your emotions like passing weather, knowing they are real, but also knowing they are not forever. You are the sky, and anger, grief, fear, they are just clouds. There's a sacred second, a tiny breath between what triggers you and what you do next. And in that space, something powerful awakens. You catch yourself before the old reaction kicks in. You see the fire rise, but you don't add wood. You don't run from the flame, but you don't burn either. And in that pause, you find your power. Not to control others, but to guide yourself. Not to suppress emotion, but to meet it with presence. You pause. You breathe. And you choose. Not perfectly. Not always. But more often than before. And that's enough. That's maturity. There was once a woman, quick to anger, sharp with her words, always ready to defend. Until one day, someone criticized her. And she felt silence. Not numbness. Not repression. Just space. No defense. No offense. No rush to prove or protect. Just space. Wide enough to hold the emotion without being owned by it. That's how you know the trigger is still there. But it no longer has a grip on you. You feel it, but you don't become it. There is no shame in feeling deeply. In fact, emotional maturity doesn't mean you feel less. It means you feel fully without losing yourself in the wave. And perhaps the real question is no longer, why do I feel this way? But can I feel this without losing who I am? Can I be the witness, not the prisoner, of my emotions? Can I let them move through me without letting them move me? 4. Living without drama. You start choosing peace over being right. Not because you've given up, but because you finally understand what's truly worth your energy. There was a time when every disagreement felt like a battle to win. You needed to explain, defend, prove, but slowly, quietly, that need dissolves. You no longer chase conflict or chaos. You stop poking at wounds, your own or others. You recognize how much noise is just unhealed pain trying to be heard. Gossip, arguments, power struggles, they used to feel like participation, like connection. But now they just feel heavy, pointless, loud, and so very far from peace. You don't entertain drama, not because you're above it, not because you judge it, but because your nervous system has finally tasted what stillness feels like. Once you've known stillness, not the quiet outside, but the quiet within, everything else feels like static. Your nervous system no longer seeks the adrenaline of tension. It seeks safety. It seeks peace. It seeks alignment. You become like a candle in the wind. Not frantic, not fighting, but steady, steady, steady. Not flickering even when the breeze picks up. There's a shift from ego-centered to soul-centered living. Ego needs to be right, needs to be seen, needs to win. But soul just wants peace. Soul wants alignment. Soul wants truth. Not the kind shouted in debates, but the kind whispered in quiet moments. When someone brings you conflict, you don't grab it like a sword anymore. You let it pass like wine through open hands. And even when your mind says defend, your soul asks for what? What are you defending? A version of you that's already outgrown? So you stop. You smile. You say less. You listen more. Not from weakness, but from wisdom. And in that choice, to protect your peace over your pride, you begin to feel lighter. Not because life is easier, but because you are no longer at war with it. 5. Authentic relationships. You begin to love without needing to possess. Not because the love is any less, but because it has matured beyond fear, beyond clinging, beyond control. Love stops being something you need to hold onto. It becomes something you allow to move through you, freely, gently, like a breeze through open windows. You're no longer addicted to being understood. You realize that real connection doesn't demand translation. It invites presence. The ache to be seen begins to soften when you can sit in your own presence and know that you see you. And sometimes that's enough. You give love without controlling how it's received. You stop needing your love to be returned a certain way. It's no longer a transaction. It's a gift. You begin to trust that love, when given freely, finds its way. Sometimes back to you, sometimes not. But either way, it leaves you more open, not less. Boundaries become an act of love, not walls of defense. You say no, not to reject, but to honor the space where real love can grow. You understand that distance can be an offering too. That silence can be sacred. That not every bond is meant to be held close to the skin. You're no longer attracted to relationships that mirror your wounds. You stop seeking in others the very thing you're learning to heal in yourself. And when those old patterns show up in new faces, you see them. Not with judgment, but with clarity. You smile. You wish them peace. And you keep walking. Presence becomes more important than performance. You don't care about who shows up with the best words. You care about who shows up, period. The performance fades. The masks fall. And what remains is the beautiful discomfort of being real with someone. Raw. Unedited. True. True connection doesn't require masks. It only asks for presence. That presence becomes your new compass. Not history. Not fantasy. Just this moment. You love more honestly now. Not because you found the perfect person, but because you stopped pretending to be someone you're not. And in that honesty, something sacred returns to your heart. Not possession, not performance, but peace. Peace in being. Peace in seeing. Peace in being seen. 6. Self-alignment. You return to your own frequency, as if waking from a long sleep where you forgot the sound of your own heartbeat. It's not loud or dramatic. It's a quiet hum, steady and true beneath the noise of the world. You stop abandoning yourself to fit in, no longer twisting or hiding parts of your soul just to blend with the crowd. Instead, you stand in the gentle power of your own authenticity, unshaken by the world's expectations. Decisions begin to arise not from fear or doubt, but from the quiet voice of intuition, a deep knowing that whispers, guiding you like the gentle current beneath a still lake's surface. You notice how your outer life starts to mirror this inner truth. The places you go, the people you choose, the rhythms you follow, all slowly aligning like constellations forming a clear pattern in the night sky. It's not about chasing signs anymore, because you become the sign. The living proof that alignment is possible when you stop looking outside and start trusting what's within. You realize that the compass you've been searching for all along was inside you. Quiet, steady, unwavering, waiting for you to stop running and start listening. This return to yourself is not a sudden leap, but a gentle unfolding, like a flower opening petal by petal, revealing more and more of its beauty with patience and grace. The freedom comes when you no longer feel the pull to conform or prove anything, but instead feel the deep peace of simply being exactly who you are, fully and completely. This alignment isn't perfection. It's the courage to be human, to hold contradictions with kindness, and to trust that your own inner rhythm knows the way home. The world around you shifts, not because you changed it, but because you changed how you move through it. The vibration you send out draws toward you a life more in tune with your soul's melody. In this space of alignment, peace is not something you have to search for. It is the space you rest in, the home you carry inside, no matter where you go or what happens. What does it feel like to trust yourself so deeply that each choice is a reflection of love, not fear? Can you sense the power in returning home to your own frequency? 7. Shadow integration. You stop fighting your darkness, not because it disappears, but because you begin to listen. To truly listen. To the parts of yourself you once feared or rejected. You no longer deny your jealousy, your fear, or your anger. Instead, you meet these feelings with a quiet compassion, as if greeting an old friend who has come with a message. The shadow is not gone. It is no longer unconscious. It has stepped into the light of your awareness, no longer hiding in the corners of your mind, but revealed with kindness. You start to recognize that the shadow was just a part of you asking to be loved, a child within who needed your embrace rather than your rejection. Holding this child close, you realize it was always you. The wounded part, the scared part, the angry part, waiting patiently for your love to come home. When the mind is still like water, the shadow appears. Only then does it lose its power to control you, because in stillness you see it clearly, without fear or judgment. This integration is not about vanquishing darkness, but about weaving it into the whole tapestry of who you are, where light and shadow dance together in harmony. You learn to sit with discomfort, to hold your edges with tenderness, knowing that each dark feeling carries a lesson wrapped in disguise. Shadow integration invites you to become your own healer, to listen deeply, to forgive what was hidden, and to invite wholeness where there was once fracture. The courage to face your darkness is the courage to love yourself fully, not in spite of your shadows, but because of them. Can you imagine holding your shadow with the same love you give the light? What changes when you stop resisting and start embracing? 8. Spiritual awakening. You realize your transformation is not just a personal journey, but something much larger. something that echoes through the very fabric of existence, as if you are awakening to a truth that has always been there, quietly waiting for you to see. There is a deep, unspoken sense that you are part of something vast and eternal, an infinite web where every thread, every soul, including yours, is woven together in a sacred dance of connection. This awakening is not an escape from reality but a return, a homecoming to the essence of who you truly are beyond the masks, beyond the stories, beyond the small self. You stop chasing fleeting spiritual experiences like shadows on the wall and begin embodying that stillness, that presence, as a natural way of being, flowing effortlessly through each moment. In this awakening, you start to see others not as broken or separate, but as mirrors, reflections of your own growth, your own challenges, your own unfolding path. And you meet them with compassion and understanding. The words of a wise teacher come alive. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, reminding you that this life is the canvas for your soul's expression. When you pause to reflect, you might wonder, what if your healing, your quiet transformation, also serves as a healing for the world, a ripple that spreads far beyond what you can see or imagine? This thought invites you to embrace your journey with humility and awe, knowing that every step toward awakening touches the collective heart, awakening the world one soul at a time. Awakening means surrendering the illusion of separateness and opening to the truth of unity, where the boundaries between self and other gently dissolve into the endless flow of life. What changes if you see your life not as a series of random events but as a sacred unfolding, where your presence itself is a gift to the universe? Can you feel the spaciousness that arises when you step into this truth? A spaciousness where healing, love, and awakening are not destinations but the very essence of your being, flowing through you and out into the world. Peace is not something you chase or a place you arrive at. It is the quiet sign that you have finally come home to yourself, to the place where your soul feels safe and whole, where the restless storms settle into calm. When the shadows that once pulled the strings of your life no longer hold you captive, the light within you does not need to rush in like a visitor. It simply shines, steady and sure, as if it were there all along, waiting patiently for you to notice. This light has always been inside you, sometimes hidden behind clouds of fear or doubt, sometimes dimmed by the noise of the world. But it has never left, and it never will, because it is your true nature, your unshakable essence. To come home is to release the fight with your own shadows and to embrace them with the tenderness of understanding, knowing that peace grows not from absence but from acceptance, from holding all parts of yourself with love. If you find yourself on this winding path of returning, of remembering who you are beneath the stories and struggles, know this: you are not walking alone. There is a vast, invisible community of souls moving quietly beside you, each shining their own unique light. So if this message touches something deep within your heart, if you feel a flicker of recognition or comfort, I invite you to leave a simple sign. Say, "I see the light," as a way to honor your own journey and connect with others who share this gentle path. And if you wish to walk together on more explorations of soul, peace, and gentle awakening, please subscribe and join me as we nourish this inner flame and discover what it means to live fully, freely, and kindly.